Howdy there, Silver Mongoose here, back again with another quarterly update for my Year of Wii Challenge. There was no update last quarter, and that's because life has been crazy. There's been some really good stuff, some pretty bad stuff, and just, overall busy, but I won't get into that. That's not why you're here. You're here to listen to me talk about Wii games. I think for this quarter I'm going to break it up into two videos. The first one's going to be more unique titles, some Wiiware stuff, as well as some motion control and balance stuff. And then the second video is going to be more mainstream stuff that you've probably heard of, at least for part of it. And I might end up mashing some of these together, who knows. So the first Wiiware game I'm going to talk about is Maboshi's Arcade, or the 3-Shape Arcade in other regions. Definitely one of the more interesting games I've played in a while. It's kind of hard to describe, but there's 3 mini-games: Circle, Square, and Stick, I believe. And they all play differently, but they're all simple. So the Circle one, for example, is all you do is press the A, and this ball moves around, and A just changes the direction and the momentum, and your goal is to basically destroy all the enemies before they reach the center. And the Stick is kind of similar. You have this stick moving around, and pressing and releasing the A button will, stop and move the stick using the momentum of it spinning around. And again, the goal is to destroy the enemies and to go up on the screen. And then the last one is kind of the more unique one, where you are using just the D-pad. And this one, you don't have enemies coming at you. This one you can take your pace at. You just go square by square. And for this one, you want to use the trail of blocks to set fire to these blocks on the screen so they don't reach the bottom. So that's how they all work individually. Now, by itself, I admit that's not all that interesting. But there's these 3 sections on the screen, and whenever you pick up to play, you can pick one of those 3 sections, pick your game, and play. Another player can jump in at any time and pick another one of those sections. And then if one person loses or dies, then it doesn't disrupt stuff. If you're playing with 2 other people, one person wants to go to the bathroom or get a drink or something, they can just get up and do that. And what's even more interesting is that the sections all interact with each other. So if you're playing one player, you can have demos playing on left and right, or if you previously had a very good run, you can play those replays in some of the other sections. And why this is important is because they actually interact with each other. So the stick can go into one of the other screens, the fire can catch fire on the other screens, and the ball one, whenever an enemy is destroyed, it kind of flies off screen and can hit the other sections. So they all interact with each other. You have this concurrent gameplay where you can play separately or together. You can help each other out. Whenever I was playing, it ended up turning into the other 2 players basically working to help me go higher. And the goal of the game is to get to 1,000,000 points. I have not even come close to this. The games are very challenging, and whenever you lose, you end up essentially having to start over. But it's a fun game to basically kind of chat and play together. It's simple, it's challenging, and there's lots of different strategies that you can use. It has some nice relaxing music. A couple other interesting things about this game is that, one, it was the first game in 10 years that these people made, which I thought was pretty cool. And the other one was that I believe it is the first Wiiware game that you could download content off of onto your DS. So you can actually play these 3 mini games kind of in a more retro looking style on your DS. You can download them on there and basically, keep it in your DS's internal memory. And these work perfectly well on DS, which I just think is really cool. So not the flashiest game or the most exciting game, but definitely something that is unique that I'm happy that I have downloaded on my Wii. The next Wiiware game is Lit. You are a kid inside of a school, you enter a classroom, and it's pitch black, and you have to get to the other side. If you touch the dark portions, even for a second, you die and you have to start the classroom over. So what you have to do is look around the room and try to use light to your advantage. So you can use a slingshot to break a window to let light in, or you can light a flare, turn on computer screens, use a TV remote, all sorts of stuff like that to kind of puzzle your way across the room without touching any of the darkness on the screen. You do actually have a flashlight, but the flashlight's just for looking around the room. It doesn't actually help you survive. So you might think, okay, well, I can just basically turn on all the lights and make it across. Well, it's not that simple because there is a meter at the top of the screen, and if you light up too many things, you'll, I guess, kind of kick the circuit breaker and it'll go pitch black, and then you'll die. And there's no real enemies, just the darkness itself, except for every 5 levels there's a boss which more actively tries to kill you. So this horror puzzle game is actually quite a bit of fun. It doesn't, look like much because it's a Wiiware game, but you can tell that a lot of care went into it in terms of the enemy design and the controls and that sort of stuff, all the mechanics. There are 3 different camera angles, which is great, as well as a first-person mode, so lots of options for figuring out what you need to do in the room. There is actually a mobile version of this game, and if you look at that, it's very obvious that you're like, wait, this is a way forward game. Personally, it looks like the mobile game has absolutely no charm. It is, kind of cutesy, but it's not a horror game anymore. You don't get kind of, I don't know, it just feels wrong, After playing the Wiiware version, I can't imagine playing this mobile game and it being even close to the same experience. But if you can play Lit, the original Wiiware game, I would definitely recommend it. And the third and final WiiWare game that I'm going to talk about is Snowpack Park. And this was made by Skip, who are the people who made the critically underappreciated Chibi Robo series. And you can really tell in terms of the design of this tall penguin who kind of moves around like Chibi Robo, to the text, to the music, the way the sounds are, the humor. You can definitely tell it's by the same people who made Chibi Robo. And I haven't played too much of this at this recording, maybe, an hour and a half or so. And I have no idea how long this game is because there's literally not a single entry in how long to beat, so I don't know how long this game is. Essentially what it is, from what I can see though, is that you're a character who lands on this island with a few penguins, and you have to spend friendship points to go to other islands to bring back penguins. And you have to make sure that they're happy. You can just, go and steal a bunch of penguins and bring them back, but then they're just going to run away and go back to the island right away. So you have to, pet them, feed them fish, basically take care of them and make sure that they're happy. And then bring them back to your park, to your island, and that allows you to unlock other areas and play mini games. It's, it's not amazing, I'm not going to lie. It's pretty chill. It's a pretty relaxing game to play. It's, the mini games are, vary so far from okay to not bad. So as much as I'm enjoying playing Snowpack Park, I can't really say that it's a must play. It seems like the main goal is just collecting penguins and then collecting hats for them. This was never released in Europe, which is interesting, but I suppose if you're watching this now in 2022, it doesn't matter because you can't buy this game anywhere. Now this next game was a bit of a surprise. I was in a flea market and I saw this tablet for the Wii for $5, so I said, yeah, I'll totally try it. Essentially what you do is you plug your Wiimote in there and it becomes a rudimentary tablet, which you can use to play Pictionary and a few other games. This is a gigantic flop for THQ. They probably lost tons of money on this. They ended up releasing it for the Wii, PlayStation 3, and 360. Once I got this tablet, I thought, okay, well, what can I play on this? And I found out that there was a SpongeBob game, which I was like, okay, that's interesting. And it's made by WayForward, of all people. And it's basically WarioWare. So it's a licensed kids game made by a very well-respected developer for a failed peripheral. And you would think because it's based on a popular, kids franchise, it wouldn't be very good, but it's actually quite a bit of fun. It's fairly solid. You can tell that the developers were either SpongeBob fans or they really did their research. A bunch of the games have different kinds of art styles. There's lots of references in these categories of what they call nano games. So it's essentially a WarioWare game where you have these games and you can tilt the tablet or draw on it, or you can even click the edge of the tablet pen like you would like a ballpoint pen. And it works fine. Yeah, so just a really unique surprise, a game I'd never heard of. before, and I don't know, I'm just kind of shocked that this exists and that it's actually pretty good. There is also a 3DS version of SpongeBob SquigglePants, but I haven't played it, so I don't know if it's better or worse or has different features or whatnot. But if you don't want to buy this tablet and you have a 3DS and you want to try this out, maybe that's the better way to go.
Just lovely. I'm all choked up.
So the next couple of games I'm going to talk about don't need motion control and you don't need to use peripherals, but you can, and I was interested in trying those out for the first time. The first one is Punch-Out on the Wii, and I'm not going to mention too much about what this is, but essentially it's a boxing game. There's only a few of them in the series. It was a real surprise that this was actually coming out on the Wii, and it's, you know, well made. If you're a die-hard Punch-Out fan, maybe it's not your favorite Punch-Out, but as somebody who's more of a casual Punch-Out fan, I thought this game was great. Controls are solid, the graphics are nice, it's charming. But what I thought was interesting about it is that you can actually use the balance board to dodge, as well as a nunchuck and a Wiimote to punch. And you can use those in different combinations. So if you wanted a more unique experience rather than just using the Wiimote kind of NES controller style, you can mix it up by using different kinds of motion control. So if you want to, you can just use the motion controls to box like you would Wii Sports. You can combine that with the balance board for dodging, or what's actually surprisingly my favorite is using the Wiimote sideways to punch, you know, just pressing buttons to punch left and right, and using the balance board to dodge. So it looks kind of funny that you're standing on this balance board, holding a Wiimote, going left and right and back and forth and whatnot, but also just using your controller like you would normally. There's nothing wrong with using the motion controls to punch, but I just found that it wasn't, you know, responsive enough, and I found that if you combine that with the balance board, then the balance board kind of gets confused, right? Because if you're punching with your right hand, then it kind of shifts your weight, and then the game might think that you're dodging. But I found that the most fun way to play was to use the balance board to dodge, and then just use the controller and pressing buttons to punch. Are the motion controls and the balance board as good as just using the controller? Of course not. You know, there's always going to be a delay when it comes to motion controls, and you're certainly not going to, you know, 100% this game by using motion controls and the balance board, but it was a fun way to mix it up, and I think whenever I go back to play this game, I'll probably, you know, cycle through the modes just for fun, just for the unique experience. Using motion controls for Punch-Out was a no-brainer, but I was surprised to see them in Dance Dance Revolution. There's a number of DDR games on the Wii. I have 5 of them. When I was looking through them, I noticed that on just the basic Dance Dance Revolution game, you can use not only a GameCube controller and a classic controller and Wiimotes, but also the balance board, which I thought was very interesting. So you can't use the balance board like you would the dance mat, but what you can do is play a separate mode called balance mode. And this mode has steps where you're stepping on and off the board like you would in a 1980s exercise video. It's got hip bumps and hip rolls. And then also in this mode, you do have to use the nunchuck and the Wiimote for punches. Like I just said, is this as accurate as playing the traditional way? No, of course not. But it is still fun, and it's a nice mode that I enjoyed playing. I think one of the main benefits to this is that if you're in a situation where, for example, it's late at night, or you live in an apartment or something and you don't want to be making noise by slamming your feet on a dance pad, you can still kind of get your DDR fix by using what is essentially a gentler mode, because you're just kind of swaying and shifting your weight and occasionally just stepping off and on. The game itself, I don't have too much to say about it, except for comparing it to Hottest Party, which I talked about in a previous video. It has a bit more dance music, and then also it has properly licensed songs. So in Hottest Party, I believe they were all covers of songs, but in this one it sounds like it's the original artist and they're just throwing the MP3 on the game. And also there's lots of different modes, lots of options in this game, which I really appreciate. Like you can even change the color of your arrows. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about DDR. You probably all know what it is. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this unique style that you can play it. So those are some oddities and oddballs from the Wiiware library, and a few interesting motion control games. So I hope you enjoyed learning about these games with me, and you look forward to the next video, which will be largely, I think, more mainstream stuff, so things like Nintendo games or more higher profile titles, but there'll probably be some oddballs in there too. This has been SilverMongooseVideos, and remember, classic gaming never gets old.